Welcome to episode 6 of the Games My Mom Found podcast. We are coming to you on February 17th, 2019. Quick throw out there before we get started. If you guys get a chance, please take a listen to Trash Talk Podcast. He's finally now on Podbean and also YouTube. Thanks to me, he's on Podbean. But it's a cool podcast. They drink and talk about comics and TV shows, things of that nature, and some games. And I am Mike Albertin, and who's with me tonight?
It's me, DJ Copland.
And me, Stuart Hughes.
Another 3-man podcast coming at you guys again this week. Now we're missing Stefan, but hey.
Oh.
It's okay.
Which sucks because I've so Stefan's been playing Resident Evil 2 for the past 2 weeks, basically. Yeah. And I've been playing Metro Exodus because it came out and I didn't have time to get to Resident Evil 2. And I was like, well, Exodus came out, so I'm going to play that. But I feel like this would be a game that he'd be really into.
A better post-apocalyptic game than the game we just played, probably.
Definitely.
All right, Stuart, if you want to take it and let them know what game we picked this week.
So the game we picked this week was Fallout 1. That's right. There were 2 Fallouts before Fallout 3. Unbelievably.
Not good games, but there's actually, isn't there 3 Fallouts? Isn't there? Fallout Tactics.
We don't talk about tactics. No, but that's something that's like very Fallout is like people like 76 came out, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure. But 76 came out, and just I know so many people that were like, I can't believe a Fallout game came out that was bad, and I was like, really? You can't believe a Fallout game came out that like missed the mark on what it was trying to do and like just wasn't a good Fallout game? Because that's kind of like 50% of the Fallout games for a series that's so like beloved, or at least for games that are so beloved in a series. There's like a lot of it's about a 50% hit rate.
And before I forget, just want to say there will be spoilers, at least definitely for Fallout 1, which and might be spoilers for Fallout 3, most likely too. So
probably Fallout 1. Definitely Fallout 1. Probably Fallout 2. Definitely Fallout 3. So
yeah. So just to let you know, I mean, hey, if you're not missing too much Fallout 1 because you're not playing for the story.
Yeah. If you haven't played Fallout 3 yet, then what's wrong with you?
Okay. And just a disclaimer up top, so you guys don't hate me quite as much. I know we're gonna get all kinds of comments and feedback about this. I don't know shit about Fallout. I don't know anything about this series. I've played half of the first one at this point.
That's okay. Any criticism is going to be directed at me.
I wasn't able to finish it.
So don't worry.
I'm not, as a person, I'm not like, my tastes are just not really that much into like Western style RPGs. So I was never really interested in Fallout. I also really don't like shooty games that much for the most part, so I didn't play the later ones. I didn't play Fallout 3. I didn't play Fallout 4. Everything I know about this series is just purely secondhand knowledge, and my admittedly limited experiences playing this first game. So
it's a terrible jumping off point.
Yeah. So if I end up dragging this episode down at all, I apologize in advance.
It's the equivalent of like somebody saying it's the equivalent of somebody like wanting to get into M. Night Shyamalan and starting with like Lady in the Water. It's essentially what you've done.
At least one of us beat it for the show before we recorded. Hey, at least I'm the one guy who finished this mess.
I've technically beaten it before the show several hundred times.
How can you finish? Like, you can't really have a definitive like stance on this game only having beaten it once, I feel like, because
absolutely not.
It's so geared toward multiple playthroughs. The appeal of this game is that every time you play it, it's gonna be different.
Yeah, unless you always fall into the same playstyle.
Unless you spec your character exactly the same every time and you do exactly the same things in exactly the same order, which you won't. Why would you do that to yourself? Because
it's basically what I do now because I've played it so much. I played Bethesda games so much that I have like my go-to character whenever I play a Bethesda game.
Well, hold on. This isn't a Bethesda game. This is
no, it's not. But for the sake of this style of game, I'm going to accidentally refer to it as Bethesda game like 5 times. Yeah, this was Fallout 1 was not Bethesda.
Get really mad at you for conflating the two.
Fallout. Oh yeah. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this, so I'm ready.
Come join me in the hate corner.
Oh no! See, people are gonna hate you for not playing the game. People are gonna hate me for playing the game and having a different opinion.
Oh, wait till I tell you about my opinion.
So I should probably get into. That'll be a good segue into my declaration of war.
So this is where the podcast crashes and burns.
Yeah.
Wow, we had a good run, guys.
So this is my my summary of the Fallout, more of the Fallout fans than the games in the style of the Fallout intro. So let me get to reading this, and I'm glad that we segmented about 10 minutes of this because it might take full 10 minutes. War never changes. Since the dawn of genres, when our ancestors first realized there was a way to compare works based on similar tones and traits, blood has been figuratively spilt in the name of everything, from subjective opinion to objective reality to simple psychotic rage. In the year 1997, after over 2 decades of turn-based and role-playing games of varying quality, the desire by Interplay to make one more Wasteland game could no longer be contained. The world was plunged into the universe of Fallout. But it was not, as some had predicted, just another RPG in the late 90s. Instead, Fallout was simply the prologue to another annoying chapter of fanatic elitism. For Interplay had succeeded in making a franchise-worthy RPG, but war never changes. In the early days, thousands were spared the horrors of the Fallout, pun intended, by taking refuge in primitive above-ground shelters known as houses before the onset of affordable personal home computers in America Online. But when they emerged online, they had only the hell of internet forums to greet them, all except those of us in the silent majority. For on that fateful day when Fallout 3 was released, and fire rained from the keyboards of hardcore Fallout 1 and 2 fans, that weird 3D pipe screensaver of Windows 2000 played on repeat, and the rest of us enjoyed playing our fun new game. That's my declaration of war against the...
that was pretty good.
Against the Fallout fans.
Okay, I missed all of that.
Fallout fan.
Sorry. My headphone cord got caught in my chair wheels, so I just had to spend.
This is gonna be a battle to see who gets the most hate.
It's okay.
You know what? Let's make it a competition. I'm gonna see if I can get the most negative comments.
It's just
let's do it. Let's
do it. Even negative comments, even negative comments are comments. So
yep.
I'm gonna use.
Hey guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Recommend us to your friends.
You know, we do need to go on YouTube one day. All right. First, what we're starting now.
We'll be competing with the YouTube Rewind for the most disliked video of all time.
So we know DJ didn't know Fallout existed other than, commercials.
Yep.
I knew it existed. I just had no interest in playing it.
I had no interest in this first one. I when he first announced it, it's like, oh, he's picking. I'm like, oh, great. I'm like, it won't be too bad. And then,
oh no, it's bad. It's real bad. And that's coming from.
By the way, can we just acknowledge that I am the norm? By the way, all you fans out there.
Oh yeah.
This game didn't sell too well. This game was what they call
flop,
cult classic,
a Fallout.
Yes, all of those.
Bomb.
I don't even know if I call it a cult classic. It's
not really. I mean, I didn't even know too much about the series until later.
This is the second bit. This is the second opinion that'll get me hate. Everything that Fallout 1 does, Fallout 3 does better and in a more enjoyable way.
That's funny because I prepared for this episode partially by watching the YouTuber H-Bomber Guy. I don't know if you guys know him. He has an hour and a half long video.
Is it? I know the title of it because I know exactly what you're talking about.
You want to Google it? I can.
Or he says exactly the opposite of what you said. So this is going to be very interesting. I want to hear your reasoning because
H-Bomber Guy has
very strongly.
Yeah, H-Bomber Guy, and so I should probably explain first my history with the series is, I played Fallout 1 and 2 when I was very young, and I did not get them because I was way too young to get the concept of Fallout 1 is a game that you need to fail and start over to learn. That's the learning curve. Is you need to realize that you made a mistake making your character. You can't play the way you wanted to play initially, and then you have to start the game over. And I just didn't get that as a kid because I was I think I was 7 or 8 or something. I didn't get the concept of I'm supposed to fail at this because it's a difficult game. If you screw up, if you're gonna make a melee based character, it's not like Fallout 3 where it's okay, I'm gonna specialize in melee and science and lockpick, and those are gonna be my 3 skills. Or science and lockpick I guess would be redundant in Fallout, but melee. If I'm gonna do melee weapons and science and speech or something. You can't do that in Fallout 1. In Fallout 1, if you want to make a melee character, you have to go with like melee, and you have to specifically get skills that are going to keep your melee character alive. You got to go for really heavy endurance. You can't skip out on the endurance if you're doing melee. You got to get the endurance. You got to get the strength. You got to really focus on. I'd say, well, you had a different experience than I usually have.
Oh. I had a bad. I mean, let's put it this way. You'll laugh at this one. The hardest boss for me in this game was the dog meat, when I had to kill him so I could go in the cathedral and sneak around. I couldn't kill him. Like my guy, I had equipped the Magnum, used 2 stim packs to finally kill him because my guy just didn't. He only got 1 turn per. He only got 1 attack per turn, no matter what, because he didn't have enough agility. I mean, it was just a terrible experience all around because my character was not stat correctly.
Well, the good news, DJ, is that now we're off the hook because Mike killed Dogmeat, so he is automatically most.
All right, I didn't even meet Dogmeat, so
it's okay.
Yeah, there are not. There's only. So Fallout 1 only has 13 locations in it. I think it's 13. There's 13 locations, and there's like 3 companions plus Dogmeat, who is kind of like a. Dogmeat's never really been a full companion in the games, except for 3. Like even in New Vegas, you get Rex instead of Dogmeat. That's like the Dogmeat equivalent, but you get Rex in addition to a human companion. It's the same way in Fallout 4, I guess, does like the same way as Fallout 3, where it's like you can only have 1 at a time. But the original Fallout 1, you can get multiple companions. It kind of carried over to New Vegas with, Rex and Edie are non-humanoid. You have 1 non-humanoid and 1 humanoid. 2 is the same way. You can get multiple companions. But Dogmeat's like the kind of iconic companion of the series for, I would say for better or worse, but for worse, I think.
Well, he was my main powerhouse because I had him, Ian, and then my regular guy. Ian could kill people. My guy would just smack him with a hammer or maybe put a bullet at him and they just laugh it off. And Dogmeat was killing everybody. It was weird.
Dogmeat is like the ultimate double-edged sword of, if you just let him go to town, he will go to town. But if you are in a situation where there's somebody that can kill Dogmeat, and you're trying to prevent that from happening, you will reload a game over a dozen times to get a fight down exactly right.
My problem with Dogmeat is there's supposed to be a way to dismiss him. I saw videos of people dismiss him. I could not dismiss him until I put a bullet through him. Then he dismissed him. It wouldn't let me. He would just bark at me, and it wouldn't give me the option. I don't know if I didn't have a right stat or something, but my guy could not tell the dog, sit, stay. Nope. We had to use the gun.
That's bizarre. The only way to fire your companion is to kill him.
Yep, I had to kill him to get rid of him, and because my guy was all based around sneaking, and if you're trying to,
you do not sneak with Dogmeat.
You can't. I mean, you just walk in the area like, oh look, kill him. No, it was terrible.
I mean, there's the one of the like famous, I guess, memes or something to come out of Fallout 4 is people are like trying to. There's a hallway in Fallout 4 that's just filled with lasers, and it's like this. It's this classic like Fallout over the top security system, where it's just like a room. You see down a hallway and you see nothing but red lasers. And you can either hack a terminal nearby that I think is a very hard hack, so level 100 science to get it done, or you can go down the hallway one at a time, disarming the lasers. But as soon as you step foot in that hallway, Dogmeat is just going to soar to the end of it, and he's going to run through every fucking laser and set off every turret and every fucking defense in this entire building. So Dogmeat's always been like I can't wait to get Dogmeat. Oh my god, I just realized that this is a responsibility, not a helpful companion.
Pretty sure in the other Fallout game you can just dismiss him like normal, if I remember correctly. In 3.
Yeah, dismiss him or tell him to wait.
Yeah,
and he'll wait for like 3 days.
My version of wait involved the gun, but hey. So
it was a different time.
And let's just start at the beginning. We haven't really talked too much about the vaults yet. I mean, I'm assuming people listening to the show might be at least somewhat familiar. Unlike DJ, familiar with the vaults and kind of the storyline.
Yeah, maybe. So basically, if you haven't played the Fallout games, DJ.
I mean, I have. I got halfway through this one.
That doesn't count.
Okay.
No, because like when people think of Fallout now, they typically think of like 3, New Vegas, and to a lesser extent 4. But 4 is I think 4 is still a really good game. But it's more of like it's a first-person shooter. It's more of a focus on skills, whereas the first game is very focused on your exact skills, but you have to know what you're doing going in. In the latter games, it's like, oh, you just have these skills and they can get you in places and they're kind of fun and nice. Like you get like lockpick because you're going to be picking locks and trying to steal a bunch of people's shit to sell or hold on to. Whereas in the original, like in Fallout 1, it's like if you want to do lockpick, that's your character is the lockpick. Like that's what you have.
Yeah, you
or at
can,
best, at best lockpick is just like your hobby. Like you've got your two main skills that'll keep you alive, and then lockpick is your hobby that you do on the side.
And I didn't really like, even though I looked up guides, I read about it, I wasn't prepared to build my character correctly for this game. Like I started off okay, I killed the rats, I killed a few scorpions. I'm like, okay, this ain't so bad. I got Ian, and it went all right. Like, even getting the water ship, all that went okay. It wasn't until later that everything spiraled out into madness.
It's just the first games are kind of a nightmare in that regard of just like you are supposed to mess up. That's the learning curve. The game doesn't tell you at any point. Like you start the game.
This game tells you nothing.
Tells you nothing.
No,
yeah.
This game tells you exactly nothing.
Whereas opposed to Super Metroid that tells you nothing but it works. Fallout 1 tells you nothing and throws essentially a character sheet from a D&D homebrew game that you've never seen before in your face.
Super Metroid is much simpler than this game.
Yeah.
It has a 3-button, 4-button control scheme, and like you just try all the buttons and you figure out they do something.
Is going to be your character for the entire game, and that's what you're gonna have. It's like
yeah, and then I just took one of the presets because I just looked at the character creation screen and I was like, I'm going to spend 3 hours here and still end up with something that's unusable. So
I think that might be right. That's what I did.
I'm just gonna take one of the pre-made guys.
When I went back to the game later, I think I was like 12 or 13. I tried to do that. I tried to really think about what character I wanted to make. I didn't pick a preset, and I think I picked a character that had I think it had small guns and lockpick and speech, and I just got killed immediately. I just kept dying. I was like, I could not figure out why. And I was just like, oh, I need to have first aid because the way that I'm using this character, I'm just getting hit and dying all the time. Yeah. And the game is random chance. The game.
Oh yeah,
that's another big facet of the Fallout series is you have this kind of RNG of random encounters, and your encounters in Fallout 1 can literally destroy your game. It can end your game of, I just keep running into death claws and I'm only level 2. And it's that can just end your game immediately. And you're like, oh, well, do I try to do this again and hope I don't run into them? Or do I just have to start over because I'm just getting destroyed out the gate?
I overcame most problems during my playthrough by just reloading saves.
Yeah,
and either trying again or trying something slightly different. I picked the preset, they called him Albert, the guy who's really spec'd into speech and gets extra skill points.
Yeah, essentially he's got a higher charisma and
he's got
higher intelligence as well.
It's weird because the way the speech and the intelligence and dialogue options work in this game, you don't realize that you have an advantage. You do, but you don't feel like you do.
Yeah.
And
it gives you a character sheet and it doesn't tell you how anything affects anything.
I mean, it does, but even when you see it, there's no signifiers in the game that make it clear to you, oh, this is what this is.
It's just it's too much information to throw at you at once. You've got this sheet with your special traits on the side, which if you're not a Fallout fan, your special traits are strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, luck. It's basically any RPG has that same kind of mechanic of you've got more dexterity and charisma, you're a more roguish type character. You've got strength and endurance, you're a melee character.
Right.
And it's when you change your specials, on the right side of the character create is all of your skills that you could have in the game. And you see them just it's it's so many numbers, and it's not. It's
Yeah.
You would think it's 1 out of 100. You think it's 1 to 100%. It's not. It's 0 to 200% is how they're set up. I don't know why they set it up that way, but it's 0 to 200%.
That makes no sense.
It makes no sense whatsoever. And I think it comes in more in Fallout 2, but basically, like, you can. There's no reason that it's not just like up to 100, because it's just like the way that like sneak is, or like picking people's pockets. It's like weighed against their skill, but if their skill is like 134 and yours is 135, you've got like a slight advantage. It doesn't make any sense for it to be out of 200%. And so right away, it's like you have all these numbers and all these skills in front of you, and it's just like it throws you in the deep end. And then in the bottom left-hand corner is like your 2 traits that you can pick. You don't have to pick 2, but you can pick up to 2 traits that like are kind of more special. These are things that show up in the other Fallout games as well, particularly like New Vegas and I think 4, where it's like you can do like small frame, and you're faster, you've got more agility, but you're weaker to melee hits, and you take more damage. So it's like they're very they're all like monkey paw abilities.
Right.
It's just like it gives you all of this information right up front, and you just don't know what to do with it starting out. Like, unless you are coming into the game for the 3rd or 4th time, that's when you can really like sit down and say, okay, I want to play this type. I want to try to do the small frame, and I'll just do like a sniper character from far away. But you don't know that going in until you play the game a couple times. It's a rough beginning.
Yeah, that's mainly right, because I had basically 2 weeks to play this game, like a week and a half to play this game, and a lot of it was just spent reloading the same saves over and over because I just couldn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
Because this game gives you absolutely no direction, and you are just expected to figure shit out. And I sort of got used to that after a little while, and then by the time I got used to that, it was time to record the episode.
Yeah, I fully expected no one was going to finish this game. That's what, like, we kept talking about, like, throwing in, like, shorter games so people would have more time with it, and I was like, it's not going to matter.
It was a struggle. I haven't struggled this much to beat a game in a long time. Like, I forced myself to beat this game.
It's a hard game, and I think that's why. So I should talk about the fans at this point. But I think this is why, like, the Fallout 1 and 2 fans are so adamant about them being the best games, is because they had to struggle to get through them, and so the sense of accomplishment is really good. Like, satisfaction of finally beating them is really there.
That I will definitely agree with. Like, I felt a huge sense of accomplishment finally getting that water chip. Like,
even just like learning the mechanics of the game, it's like,
right. Well,
you've
even
overcome
like
this massive hurdle,
and you're like proud of yourself for like figuring all this stuff out, because everything is so cryptic. So being able to even put together, okay, it says that the water chip might be in this vault under Bakersfield. What's Bakersfield? It says it's southeast of my vault. Oh, that's the necropolis. It's underneath the necropolis. How do I get there? There's nothing here. There's no doorway. Oh, it mentions like a sewer. You have to like, there's a sewer grate. Okay, I'm going to go down there. And it's like, it takes you hours just to piece that shit together. Like,
even in like the first, so it's the story of the game basically is you start in a vault. You're like, the first thing you see is your overseer kicking you out of the vault saying, go get a water chip because we're running out of water.
Yep.
Ours broke. So you got to go find one from either a pre-existing vault, or you got to find one out in the world. And so you go to this town, Shady Sands, which, if people haven't played the first Fallout games, but they have played New Vegas, they should know Shady Sands as a like mentioned town, because a lot of characters in New Vegas are from Shady Sands. If you like really pay attention to the games, but like you go there and they say, oh, there's this old like vaults, in the like northwest or northeast of town you can go visit. And they might have a water chip, and you go there and you can't get in. Like, you get into it and you can't get down to the next level.
You need a rope.
And so you find out, oh, you need a rope. Where's a rope? Oh, it's back in Shady Sands. There's a guy who has a rope. I didn't know he had a rope. At no point did anybody say you might need a rope.
I didn't either.
Yeah,
I got one from the hub.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't tell, the game doesn't tell you anything, and with some games that's a benefit. As somebody who loves Fallout, this is probably like my top 3 game series. The Fallout games, I'd say 1 through 1, 2, 3, 4 New Vegas. I love all of them, but this game is not well made. Or at least like if their intention was to make a game that was like specifically difficult in this way, then they accomplished it, but it's not particularly fun. It's challenging. It's definitely a hurdle to overcome, but I would never describe Fallout 1 as fun. It's always like the game's tricking you. It's I went to this vault and I need a rope. God damn it! Now I got to go find a rope. Oh, there's a guy in shitty sands who had a rope. Nobody told me that. God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I can see the other side of it though, because I can just hearing you say that, I can immediately like hear in my head like the voice of the fan who's like, "Well, you just don't get it. You obviously you're supposed to ask everybody and talk to everybody. Like you're obviously not playing it right."
Yeah, like, it comes down to like the people who think that. This is a valid opinion. People who find difficult games the most rewarding, and just they think that difficult games should be the only game. The problem is, you can like difficult games, and you can say that like a difficult game is your favorite. I like difficult games. I like having a challenge to overcome, which is why I like games like Fallout and Stalker and stuff like that, and survival horrors. I would never tell somebody to play Fallout, and I would never presume that Fallout 1 is the only style of game that
you
should
told
exist.
us to play Fallout.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I did do that.
You forced us. you
could have said no.
All right, so you're a liar.
No was always on the table. What do you think Stefan is? He secretly tipped out. He didn't want to play this game.
You sadistic bastard.
Yeah, but I specifically made you guys play this game so that I could point out why people should not play this game. Is essentially what happened.
See, I did before we got into this game. I was like, okay, I wasn't like excited for it, but I'm like, all right, maybe it won't be so bad. I played like 10 minutes of Fallout 2 in my life. I really enjoyed Fallout 3, and I was excited to play this at first, a little nervous, and then it didn't take long before I was just like, I hate this game. Yeah, I hate everything about this game.
It's not the same. And it's people's opinions about like Fallout 1 and 2 being their favorites. Totally valid. But Fallout 3 is basically the same game as Fallout 1. It's so ridiculously similar. It's basically a remake. It's basically like the Force Awakens of Fallout games. But it's just a 3D game that's like easier on in every aspect. It's just easier to get into. It's more fun to play.
The story is a lot. I mean, the story of 1, when I was playing 1 after playing 3 maybe like 10 years ago, and I'm going through 1, and it's like there's so many get the water chip. When I'd forgotten that the third one's about water too, but you have super mutants just like the third one. I mean, it has a lot of similarities.
It follows like almost the exact same beats, aside from like the biggest difference is that you're not chasing your dad in Fallout 1. But in Fallout 1, it's you start in a vault. The vault is desperately in need of something. Stuff happens and you get kicked out. It's like you got to go out and fix the world. And it's all about we need water. We need water. Water's a pure source of water is what your main goal is, which is basically Fallout 3. And throughout the game, you are sidetracked. You keep running into the Brotherhood of Steel and come to help them eradicate the super mutant menace. It's a very similar style. It's a very similar story. All the beats are the same. That's why I always say if you want to play Fallout 1, just play Fallout 3 unless you really want to play a challenging version of it.
Well, it's just how confusing this game is too. Example, when you first get out and I finally got to Necropolis, I figured out part about the water chip just from talking to people. I was using a guide, but I was kind of just going along. I figured out it's a vault. When I first got to Necropolis, I ended up in a random event right before the city, fought a bunch of raiders and thought I was in the city, and I messaged you in the group, and I'm like, well, where's the city? Where are the ghouls? I don't understand. And it turned out it was a random event I walked into, not the city.
Yeah,
it took me a little bit.
But if it's near the city, it'll basically take place in a cell of the city. So you think you're there.
Slightly unrelated, but did this happen to you guys? Because I feel like an idiot. I went to the boneyard at one point, and I couldn't figure out how to get out.
No, it's not you. When you guys were in Necropolis, did anybody talk to the super mutant and say, "Take me to your leader"? Because I did.
Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah, I saw the get dipped in acid ending.
Yep. I was like, what the hell?
But that was actually really cool. I did that, then I reloaded my save, and then because I was invested in speech, I was able to just fool him into thinking I was an advanced robot.
Nice.
And then he was just like, "Okay, you're good."
I think
Bye.
speech is my favorite skill.
And I just walked right by him. That was my favorite moment of the playthrough. That was the one moment where I felt like, oh, okay, I'm actually playing the role I chose at the beginning. Like, I'm actually solving the problem the way the game told me I would be solving my problems. And this feels like the one time that happened.
There's only a few. There's not a lot.
There's a lot more stuff like that in Fallout 2. Fallout 2 greatly improves on Fallout 1.
Why did you make us play this one?
Because I wanted everyone to suffer.
Well, mission accomplished.
I want everyone to suffer while I played a much better game.
It was a drag just getting myself to play this game. Like, I don't even like Western RPGs in the first place. You have to make me play this one? Come on.
It's a rough game, and that's in addition to the fact that this game has a unique asset of it that so far I've only ever seen work in Majora's Mask, and by that I mean this game has a time limit.
Yes.
You have a constant time limit to beat the game in. If you don't beat the game in that time, it's a game over.
Doesn't it go away after the water ship, or is there another time limit they don't tell you about?
So, it depends on what version you play. I think in version 1.1, they basically remove the time limit after the water chip, and you have like the equivalent of 13 years in game, which I get why they did that. I know a lot of people that when they go back and they play Fallout 1, they go back and play an older version of it so they can have that like permanent time limit on the game as an extra challenge. Because I know sadomasochists. But yeah, like the premise of the game is you need to find this water chip, but it's not just you need to find it. It's you need to find it because we're running out of water. We're going to be out of water in 150 days. So you have 150 days to get us water or it's game over and we all die. Which is really rough because Majora's Mask is a game that like where the system works really well is you have 3 days, you can slow down time, you can speed up time, you can play around with the time aspect, but it's only 3 days. And something about having only 3 days feels really workable. Something about having 150 days is like, it's almost like asking you to plan in a way like let's say you've had a really rough go at it and you're at 120 out of 150. You have to suddenly think, can I somehow get this water chip within the next 30 days? Because the time goes as you're traveling through the map.
Oh, yeah.
Too.
Yeah, it goes very quickly.
It goes very fast.
Like also when you're traveling, which I didn't find this out till I got a game over screen, when you're traveling across the world map, you're also accruing more radiation.
Yes, you are.
Yep.
Which they do not tell you ever. I didn't find out until I was like, why am I just dying all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's like this game does not tell you.
Oh yeah, no, you have to look. There's like 3 separate screens that you look at. There's like a level up screen, and then there's also like a status screen, and then there's the Pit Boy, and then there's the map. Like all of those are separate, and then the inventory. Those are all separate screens, and you have to know. All right, I have to go to the character screen, and then look at the sidebar that has all the status effects, and see if one of them is lit up.
Well, it's funny because while we were playing this, Mike messaged in the group, "How do I rest?" And I forgot. how you rested in Fallout.
I didn't even know you could.
How do you? And it wasn't until I started the game. I had to wait until I got home and open up my game and play around with it to figure out how you rest. And you have to open up you open up
the Pit Boy and you click on the little bell. Yeah.
Which is very tiny, and you could very easily not realize that it's a button.
Register as like a clickable thing.
Yeah. It's so you were like, how do you rest? I was like, I think you could just rest anywhere. I don't remember how though.
Yeah, it is not. This game does not tell you anything.
This game assumes. This is one of these games that just assumes you know everything about this genre already. and just doesn't waste time telling you any of it. And it's just like, all right, you've played Western RPGs before, go. You've played so many CRPGs. We don't need to tell you anything. Like, that's part of the reason I think that this game, was such a quote unquote cult classic, because it wasn't really concerned with widening the field at all. It wasn't really concerned with appealing to anyone but people who already play those types of games. And that's something that applies to a lot of Western games these days, I think.
Fallout has a different charm to it, I'd say, that particularly calls people.
Yeah, no, I agree.
To give context to this, Fallout came out in 1997, late 1997.
Yeah. And
there were a lot of Western RPGs coming out at that time to the level that it was kind of riding a wave of RPGs. Interplay wanted to make another Wasteland game, and they saw their opportunity with all these other RPGs coming out to kind of remake Wastelands as Fallout. And so when this game came out, there kind of was a context of there were all these other Western RPGs that they assumed people would be playing.
Right.
And they would just have that mindset. It's kind of like, when
it makes sense.
Call of Duty clone comes out today, it doesn't need to tell you how to play the game because it assumes everyone's played some kind of first-person shooter.
But to someone like me, someone who does not play that genre and has been recommended this game in particular, that's a problem.
This is probably the worst entry-level game of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not easy to start this one out.
Yeah. Well, it came out and it was it didn't do particularly hot, but I think what really appealed to people, what appealed to me always about Fallout is the style of it, which we should talk about. Style has a very particular Fallout. I think that
you
said that wrong.
I think you got a couple of those words mixed up.
It's still arguably true.
Yeah.
Fallout has a very particular style.
Does very much have a Fallout, yes.
Yeah. Sounds like a weird indie band. Style has a Fallout. I'm going to see Style has a Fallout out of the Narrow this weekend.
So many Christmas lights.
Oh God.
They so Fallout has, if anyone's hasn't played Fallout,
which you shouldn't.
Which, if anyone hasn't played any of the Fallout series, I should say.
Okay, you should play 3 for New Vegas. Yes.
Yeah, you should absolutely play 3 for New Vegas. At the very least, play 3 in New Vegas just so you can be a part of that ongoing fight as to which one's better. But the Fallout style is kind of best described as retro futurism. It's got this great mix mash of the world's based on this idea that instead of the microchip, or rather the microchip wasn't invented. It never came to be, and so computer technology still had to rely on the idea of cathode ray tubing, and essentially technology and culture froze in the late 50s. And so it has this really bizarre style that just really works for me in particular of you see all these pastel old the Corvega Cadillacs rusted around, mixed with these really strong Metropolis imagery. Necropolis in general has that giant if you see the loading screens for Necropolis, it has this giant Metropolis style bust on the side of a building that's this skyscraper is standing above this ruined city, and it's this Iron Man standing above everything else, but with these really bright pastel cars being rusted around, these old 1950s Cadillacs looking cars.
Yeah.
And everybody in the game is kind of either a punk or a greaser, mixed with this really bizarre old school value type citizen in some towns. It's this crazy mix mash that just works really well. I think Fallout 4 probably captures it the best, I would say, because Fallout 4 isn't my favorite Fallout game. I think Fallout 4 is a good game though, and I think Fallout 4 probably has my favorite style of just in Fallout 4 you see Boston and it's these giant skyscrapers that are all red and blue and green. It has these yellows mixed into the world. It just looks so like pretty and beautiful and like varied, as opposed to Fallout 3, which is very gray, and Fallout New Vegas, which is very brown.
Yeah, this I mean, this game is also very gray and brown. Like overwhelmingly gray and brown. Like the only places you really see color are in those little remnants.
Yeah. I mean,
from
like the
from
game
before.
gives you
Yeah.
what I really like about the opening of this, and I think all Fallouts have, I think that's the strongest suit of every Fallout game, is every Fallout game has fantastic openings that are like really like cinematic. Fallout 3 is probably like my favorite. Fallout 3's like opening when you I consider Fallout 3's opening not like the vault stuff, but when you leave the vault and it's this giant flash of light as you're introduced to the world.
See, you should have picked 3.
I should we'll do 3 later. We'll do 3
But on the theme that you're going on, I mean, like for the longest time after I'd played 3 and I hadn't, even when I started 1, it wasn't until I was watching YouTube videos that I thought the nuclear apocalypse had happened in the 1950s, and that's why everything has that type of vibe. I didn't realize that it just had that 1950s like future vibe, and it happened like 2075 or something. I think it was somewhere around
2077.
There. Yeah.
Oh, it was close.
Well, that's when the word, like that's when the nukes went off.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Fallout 1 takes place in 22. Oh man.
It's like 2162 or something like that.
It's like 180 years later, I want to say.
Because they all take place in the same universe, just different areas of the world. Is it even the same time, or is it different time? I can't even.
I think it's different eras. Yeah.
The order it goes in is like Fallout 1 takes place first, and then 2 picks up as like you are a descendant of the Vault Dweller from Fallout 1. You're like a grandson or something. That's like part of this tribe that's like come to worship the Vault Dweller. And then Fallout 3 is on the East Coast, and it's like a whole new beast of the Brotherhood from the West Coast. Has like there was a schism, and they went to the East Coast, and now you're picking up there. And then New Vegas takes place around the same time. I think it's like a 2-year difference between the two, but it's like after the schism of Brotherhood. It's like kind of like the fallout of pun not intended that time. It's kind of like the fallout of the Brotherhood schism and like this lack of this power vacuum in the New Vegas area. And then Boston, which I always refer to Fallout 4 as Boston for some reason.
Yeah.
Because it's the most Boston game ever. It's like a million Ben Afflecks in a game, essentially.
So it's basically the same. Is it the same thing as Skyrim, where it's the same one guy doing the same ridiculous like Swedish accent? Because I love that.
It's like, well, Fallout uses the same voice actors a lot, and I think for Fallout 4 they used the same voice actors and just told them to do a Boston accent or do like their best.
Beautiful,
and so
freaking beautiful.
Some of them aren't great, and some of them are really good, and the ones that aren't great are my favorites because they're just so over the top.
If there's something I love, if there's something I am a particular connoisseur of, it is accent work in games.
I think my favorite in Fallout 4 is the character of Mama Murphy, who is like this kind of like clairvoyant character that will just wander around your settlements, and you never see her coming because the game is like very like has this like blue tone and everything's kind of misty and colorful, and she wears this blue and red like outfit, and so she kind of blends into the background. And so every now and then you'll just be like building something at your base, and you'll hear somebody walk up behind you and go, "I got the sight, kid." It's just Mama Murphy's just in your face.
Okay,
you get that jet for me?
All right, that's a strange.
I shot a death claw between the eyes, kid.
Since you brought up Deathclaw, I did run into one Deathclaw, and I was in like again. He was saying earlier in the Boneyard. For some reason, you enter that city one way, but if you try to leave like the way you think you should, it's like you end up in a weird mess, and you're not. It's like it doesn't leave. You just end up in another zone.
Oh yeah, this game can turn into a maze.
Oh yeah, here's my. There are many complaints to be had with this game, but here's a big one. You can't go straight to the world map from a town. You have to
exit the town.
You have to, because if you go into a town from the world map, if you've been to all the sections of that town, you can pick which one you want to go, and you can just go there immediately, and it's really convenient. Because moving around in this game is really slow. It's really slow. And these maps are like the town areas are huge, and getting from one end to the other takes like 30 seconds. And
one
to
thing
have
that
to,
I just, like,
to have to go from one end to the other just takes forever. So
yeah.
so you're able to get into wherever in the town you want to go from the map without having to walk there, which is great. But you can't get out the same way.
Yeah, you can't just leave.
You can't.
There's not a fast
How?
travel in Fallout 1.
What? What were they thinking?
There's no fast travel.
How
There's
did
only
they overlook
like,
that?
There's only walk to the edge of town, and then it throws you to the world map, and it's like that cartoon effect of a line dotting across a map of you are heading to this place.
All they needed to do was make it so you could just bring up that map view of the town from inside the town.
Mm-hmm.
And then be like, okay, I'm bringing up the map. I'm going to click to the go outside part, and I'm going to go outside.
It's worse, too, because in some towns you can be attacked by, like, thugs and shit. So,
Oh my
like,
God.
sometimes you'll be trying to get
Oh
out
my
of town,
God.
and people will just start fighting you.
In the fucking old town in the hub, I kept getting attacked by this one guy and having to reload my saves just because I walked in front of his doorway. Like, I didn't go in. I didn't confront him. Like, I guess the game was programmed so that, okay, if you go into this guy's house, he will attack you immediately. But, like, even if I just walked in too close to the door, he would just go after me, and then I'd be dead.
There's more of a like city in Fallout 2 where it's kind of like occasionally you'll be walking and you'll just see like an NPC, like the words pop up over their head, like, there he is, get him, and it's just like 3 guys or something on top of you.
Yeah, or like I'll go to frickin' Junktown at night, and the guard will be like, it's night, you can't come in. And I'll be like, okay, bye. And then I'll just turn around, not confront him, not threaten him, nothing. Just turn around and leave, and then he'll just start shooting me for no reason.
Because you didn't put away your gun, probably.
I'm pretty sure it happened multiple times when I was unarmed.
Oh, I'm not sure that. I don't know. This game is strange. Like, that's all.
Yeah,
like,
it's a very odd.
Yeah.
So, funny story about that is, in Fallout 1, a lot of times people will be angry if like you have your gun out, which just kind of carried over to other Fallout games. In Fallout 3 in particular, if you have I think Oblivion did this as well, is if you have your weapon out while you're looking at somebody, it's like a negative effect to your speech. Right. So if you're trying to talk to them, it'll actually affect how much information they'll tell you. But in Fallout 1, in order to be unarmed, you can equip 2 weapons. If you want to be unarmed, you have to equip only one weapon and then switch to your empty hand, and that means you're unarmed.
Yep.
You can't just put your weapons away.
Yep.
Which leads into a funny story about my friend who was really pushing for me to play Fallout. I played Fallout 1, 2, and then I played 3. And he was so mad because I was having such an easy time getting through Fallout 3. And he was like, "What? Like, how are you already there? Like, how do you know where to go?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "How do you know where you're going?" I was like, "I just talk to people and they tell me where I should go." And he was like, "Nobody wants to talk to me in the game." I couldn't figure out why. And finally I watched him play Fallout 3, and he had his gun out the entire time, and everyone was getting mad at him for pointing a gun in their face. I was like, "You gotta put your gun away." He's like, "You can put your gun away?" Ha! He didn't realize that if you just hold down the reload button, it holsters your weapon. So he was just walking around with a plasma rifle in everyone's face. It's like, everyone's just pissed at me all the time. I can't go into Rivet City anymore. It's like the biggest city in the game. Oh, but to go back to the opening aspect of Fallout 1, which I really enjoy, is the game opens with your overseer, who has the weirdest name ever. I think it's Jaco Ren. Jacoren, Jackarin. I'm not sure how exactly how to say it.
Maybe he's related to Kylo. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Jaco Ren,
Kylo's uncle
of the Knights of Jaco, and he's like he's the overseer of the vault, and so the game starts with this the cutscenes of people talking. I don't think they haven't aged well, but they don't look awful. I
kind of like the vibe. Yeah. I kind of like the aesthetic. Also, I will say, the voice acting in this game is excellent.
It's very good.
It's very, very good. There were also a few voices that I recognized. There are some very well-known voice actors in this game.
I don't know if he's in Fallout 1 and 2, but the actor who plays Garrus Vakarian is in all the Fallout games. It's the same voice actor. And so every now and then, if you're playing a Fallout game, you'll hear Garrus Vakarian in the background.
I have no frame of reference for what you just said.
Garrus is from Mass Effect.
Okay, fair enough.
That's okay.
He's
it's another Western RPG I haven't played.
But it's a good game.
It's a very good game.
Okay, yes, we get it, Mike. Unlike this one.
Help it.
We'll play Mass Effect at some point, and that'll be an easier game for us to play.
All right.
A lot more fun.
Yeah, a lot more fun. Well, we'll play Fallout. We'll play Mass Effect too.
You still have to convince me on this whole Western RPG thing.
I'm
over here playing Final Fantasy IX and having a grand old time.
What's funny is that later in that docket, I have an Eastern European RPG on here, so we'll see how that goes.
That'll be the
boundary.
Are you making? You're not convincing me by making me play the weird bad ones.
I gotta say, this show is going just like Fallout. You wander around in a wasteland, have no idea what's happening, and there's a story that's sort of just kind of fed to you here and there. We're doing the show is just like the game so far for this episode.
I feel like Fallout 4 captured that best. That feeling of just like, because the second in Fallout 4, you're looking for your son, but the second you get outside the vault, it's like you could give a shit about your flesh and blood that's been kidnapped from you. And you're just like, oh fuck that! I need to find 10 cans. And like Fallout 4 immediately turns into like the ultimate wandering exploration type game, which I'd almost say that like with Fallout games, the first games are fairly RPG focused, but with Fallout, like the focus is almost more on like exploring the world and like finding these weird random things. That's always been like another thing about the Fallout series that I've really enjoyed. Of like a big thing is in Fallout 4, you find like teddy bears everywhere that are kind of like propped up in like weird positions. Like you'll find teddy bears wearing glasses, reading newspapers just around the world. That like it's kind of implied that the bandits in the area just have this weird obsession with teddy bears. And it's just like as you go through the world, you start finding these like little details. Like the Fallout games really shine in the little details of the world. That's what makes them so like special.
Oh, didn't you guys get into the special encounter since you said the word special? I've been waiting to segue in this.
I said special earlier. We're talking about Fallout. It took us that long to say special.
Yeah. Well, there was one. I got one that I was like, what the hell? I got the unusual call box, the Doctor Who reference one, where it's just there.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't do anything. Just the call box just shows up, spins, looks at you, and disappears.
Yep.
Anybody else get any of them?
Not in this game. I always get screwed with death claws mainly. That's like whenever I play Fallout, the game just goes like, "Hey, you've played this game before. How would you like to be fighting death claws constantly?"
Can you kill them in this game?
Yeah, they're just very difficult to kill.
Like that was my problem. One of the reasons why I dislike this game so much is I couldn't fight. I know it was my own fault because my stats weren't good, but it made me not enjoy the games. I couldn't fight anything.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing is that like I chose a build where you're not focused on combat. I'm like, great, okay, and then I constantly get thrown into combat situations.
Yeah, you're gonna have to fight. Like this game doesn't give you a choice.
Yeah.
With the random encounter, I mean, I never had anything too bad in a random encounter. I had a few raiders a few times, and usually people weren't that bad. I mean, super mutants were freaking like when I first went to the cathedral. I did the cathedral before the military base, and I got so angry because Dog Meat kept alerting the night skins, and they just kept murdering me.
Oh, actually, I found the giant footprint. That's what I found.
Okay.
Which you find like it's just a huge footprint that kind of looks like a Deathclaw footprint, and if you search it, you find a stealth boy.
I never found any stealth boys. I didn't even know they were in this game until I was watching videos of how to finish the military base. Like, activate your stealth boy. I'm like, I don't have one of those.
Yeah, stealth boys are basically like the go-to. I need to get through this without fighting. Oh god, you find a stealth boy in a Fallout game, you fucking hold on to that shit because that shit's gonna.
I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. I definitely did not find one of those, whatever they are.
I didn't either. Think of Metal Gear Solid stealth camo.
Yeah,
it's essentially that's what it is.
It's it's a one-time use thing. You use it disappears. Last couple
See, I liked like talking my way out of fights. Again, referencing the one time in this game where I actually was able to do that.
I think you can, if you had finished the game and got to the master, I think you can convince the master to kill himself.
Yep, that's what I did. Because my guy, he could not have shot the master for the life of him. I mean, he would have just missed and died instantly. I just told him that he was an idiot.
Which is another thing you can do in Fallout 3 is there are multiple boss fights that you can talk your way out of in multiple ways. One of the notable ones is that, spoilers for Fallout 3, you go to the Enclave and you can convince this AI computer to self-destruct and blow up the base by just like tricking him using getting him stuck in a recursive loop, which is I love that in RPGs. I think Knights of the Old Republic does that really well. You can like talk your way out of fights and just give people to just give you a bunch of free shit, just confuse them. I really like that mechanic.
I wish I were able to do that more in this game. I feel like I just didn't get to do it enough.
It's one of those things, like Fallout 2 does that a little bit better. Fallout 3 does it way better. But I wanted us all to play Fallout 1 because I wanted you guys to experience this game that some people say is the only Fallout game that should exist.
All right, well, they're wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, they are wrong. That's for sure. I mean, it didn't like the master. Like I had already knew who he was because of one of those Watch Mojo videos, and they had talked about weird bosses or something. But he was a freaking creepy ass thing. Like if I would have had to fight him, that would have been one creepy ass experience.
Yeah, it's an odd fight and it's an odd boss. So for you, DJ, the master is like the.
Yeah, I saw a video of him. He's a weird, creepy, mutated computer guy.
Yeah, he's essentially like a human that was. So the super mutants in the game are created by the FEV, the Forced Evolutionary Virus, and he was like one of the first people to be tested with it. And rather than make him a giant green dummy that likes to bash things, it made him super intelligent and melted him more or less. So he's basically kept alive by, think like I was gonna say like think like the Matrix 3 or something, but it was a perfect analogy.
We'll just go with computer. I mean, it's like because when he talks to you, I almost want to do the voice, but I'm not going to. You know how the voice keeps changing, like there's multiple personalities shoved inside this weird creature of thing, whatever the hell it is.
It's this like totally bizarre boss that has this totally like off-putting tone to the whole like his whole speech that makes you really uncomfortable, but gives you the sense that like he is really dangerous. So he almost talks to himself or something. It's just like.
Yeah, he's telling you his master plan, essentially.
Yeah. He's giving you his master plan, and at the same time, he's like experiencing computer glitches. So it's like his entire speech is how he's in control of everything, and then his like speech pattern is breaking down to reveal that he's not in control of anything.
I didn't realize. Okay, that makes sense. Why it has him glitching? Essentially, supposed to be glitching. I thought it was just like multiple personalities or something was going on inside this creature.
Yeah, he's just got this like sense. I mean, like he is screwed up. He's got this like entire like his body's basically melted away. His mind is warped as hell, and he's in this failing computer system. So he's just got a whole host of problems.
Because he's the one making all the mutants, right? Essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
Which a lot of people were upset about when Fallout 3 came out because it takes place on the other coast, and there are super mutants, but there's no master.
Yeah, so you had the. Yeah, that's a whole nother. But you had the vault. I mean, essentially, it's supposed to be the idea that the world is just so screwed up, and then you had that this technology they were experimenting this stuff before the world went to hell, essentially, and just kept going. Is how I took it.
This is an aspect of the lore that I really enjoy. If you really dig into it, you find out that in Fallout 3, in the East Coast game, super mutants exist, but if you go back and play Fallout 1, 2, or even in New Vegas, the super mutants are more intelligent. Like they can communicate with you. They have goals. They are following a leader. They are in a organizational army. In Fallout 3, they're just kind of like these crazy lunatics that all they want to do is steal people. They can barely speak. And if you really look into it, like the whole lore of it makes a lot of sense. Of the evolutionary virus was being experimented on the East Coast as well, but because there was no master, there was nobody to organize the super mutants and like tweak the virus into making them more intelligent. So they just stuck with this, like they're almost like children, which just adds this like really, really dark aspect, like even darker aspect on top of the super mutants backstory in Fallout 3. It's just like these are essentially these giant children that don't know how to like, they can't make more of themselves unless they kidnap people and force them to like drink this super radioactive goo.
Yeah,
and that's like their only understanding of it.
Because like the way that you kill the master essentially in the speech version is that you got to get a disc from the Brotherhood, which I wouldn't have known about, it wasn't for a guide, and then you can go there and you tell him that they're all sterile, and he goes insane and blows himself up.
Yeah, he realizes that there's no future for the super mutants.
Yeah, I mean that's, and then then you get another speech part when you're running out when you run out the vault door, which that's how I figured out it even was a vault, and you get to bluff the guard so you can leave.
Yeah.
And then I actually had thought I beat the game after I took out the cathedral because I hadn't done the military base yet. I went back to the vault, like, yeah, I did it. And he's like, what are you talking about? You still need to go stop the mutants over here. And I'm like, what? You're making me do that?
Yeah, you got to go beat the master and stop the other mutants.
Yeah, I was not excited when I thought I had to go run over to the military base and do that part.
You did that backwards.
Yeah, I did.
Interesting.
And I had already killed Dog Meat at this time, so I lost my, my powerhouse character. So here I am. I didn't fight in the military base. I snuck through the whole place, did the science thing, blew it up, and then ran out of there.
You had Tycho, right?
I never got Tycho. I only had Ian. I never got the other two NPCs you can get.
Okay. Because I mentioned it to you that you could get Tycho, and I was like, I kind of hope he does, because Tycho is just a fucking nightmare. Tycho just like is friendly fire the companion. He just, I don't know what it is about his like programming, but he is just constantly hitting either you or just NPCs around whoever he's shooting at. He just misses all the time. And so like if you have Tycho with you and you're in a fight in a town, it's like a 50% chance that everybody in the town is going to be fighting you in a second. He sucks.
I thought about getting one of the other characters, but at that point, I was near the end of the game, and I'm just like, I just want to wrap this up, and I just want to stop.
How do you play this without a guide? Because I did that. I played this without a guide, and I barely got halfway.
To play Fallout without a guide, you have to play it and fail it multiple times.
Yeah. So no wonder I didn't get all the way through this one.
Basically, it's you have to play it, you have to screw up, you have to
because
realize
I was like feeling kind of bad for like doing so many games with a guide, and I was like, this time I'm gonna do it without a guide, and I picked the wrong game for that.
Yes, you did. Next week you could do without a guide if you need to.
But, yeah, no, next week we'll get to that at the end of this episode. Next week I'm definitely doing without a guide. I don't need a guide for that game. It's straightforward.
Yeah. You need a
guide. This game is I mean, there's nothing straightforward about Fallout. Like the whole game is just,
oh god, no, nothing at all straightforward about this game.
Yeah, I think the way now that you're meant to play Fallout, if without a guide, if you want to play it like pure Fallout, you have to play the game, you have to fail it multiple times, you have to realize that what you're doing is not going to work, and you have to start the game over, and then you'll probably screw that up too. You might get a little bit better, but you're going to have to start the game a third time. And it's like, by the time you've started the game for your actual like finishing, your actual like finishing character, you're probably going to be picking a character that you aren't super fond of. That's very basic. Like that's just guns or just melee weapons or something.
Yeah.
And then it's like you have to beat the game with that and then go back in with more knowledge later of, okay, now I understand the game. Now I can play around with it. It's not like you couldn't pick up, that doesn't work with like Skyrim today. Like at no point would anybody pick up Skyrim and go, oh, my character isn't like strong enough, so I've got to start the game over.
Skyrim, in Skyrim, you can start out being like, okay, I'm going to be this sneaky archery guy who sneaks and arches all over the place. And then like 3 hours in, you're like, no, I'm just going to hit stuff with a sword. And you can do that.
Yeah.
Like you can do that. You cannot do that in Fallout.
Most RPGs now allow you to either switch classes or they recognize that the class system is like silly, kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
And like because, I mean, like so we said, Skyrim's a long game. If you want to do everything in Skyrim, or as much as you can in Skyrim, that's going to be like, 60 plus hours easy. And so I think like with more RPGs now that are longer, they realize, okay, by the 60th hour, you might be tired of playing the same exact way.
Yeah.
We're going to give you the same, like
where classes make sense is in games where you actually have a party. Where you have multiple roles being filled.
Like Golden Sun.
Yeah, like Golden Sun. Yeah.
Golden Sun did it really well.
Golden Sun did it so well. And it still let you change people's classes. Like that was the whole central thing was you have this whole team of people who are specialized and you can still mess with their classes if you want to. Like
Whereas,
and that's awesome. And this game has none of that.
This is the far extreme to
that is the complete opposite of that.
Yeah, you really
like, whatever you are. There's no changing.
Yeah. And even then, like, that's another problem I ran into. Like, as I was playing the game, I was trying to strengthen some of the other stats. I'm like, okay, I want this, or I mean, not my stats, but like my skills, and you really can't. And I figured that out.
Yeah,
like my character was a mess.
If you put too many points into other skills, then you've basically just ruined your character.
Oh, should we say anything about the Brotherhood before we? I know we said a little bit earlier about the East Coast Brotherhood before we kind of move on to the next section.
Probably because I think a lot of people only know a little bit of the Brotherhood story, and the Brotherhood's such a big part of the rest of the games. So a lot of people know the Brotherhood still from Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. In Fallout 3, they're kind of like this benevolent group that's there to help people. Like they want to get people this clean water. You come to find out, like in the game, if you start asking around, that they're not actually the Brotherhood. They're an outcast group. Or they've kicked the like fundamental Brotherhood members out of their group, and they're claiming to be the Brotherhood, but they're not. So Fallout 4, when the Brotherhood shows up and is like this group of xenophobic assholes that want to kill everything that's different, they're all like, "Oh, why is the Brotherhood different?" It's not. That's how the Brotherhood always was.
I mean, aren't they like able to like? Don't they fight in this game too for you or something?
Yeah,
like
they essentially become like your army.
That didn't happen in mine.
I mean, they are on your side. It's like the same kind of equivalent of Fallout 3 of like they will be in one fight with you. But their whole goal in the first Fallouts is they could give a shit about the people that are suffering. Their whole thing is like technology ruined the world, and so we're just gonna stockpile, categorize, and systematically get rid of technology. Now they aren't like I'll say atheists, Amish. That's the word I'm looking for. They're not like Amish or like Mennonite or anything. They're not like destroying technology. They're just like, we don't want anyone to have access to nukes because nukes destroyed the world. So we're gonna collect all the nukes we can. We're gonna bury them. We're gonna put them somewhere no one can use them, and we'll be the only group that does research on them. And it's not good. It's not like a bad. They're not like a bad group. They're just kind of. They have a very specific goal that will either mesh or not mesh with other things going on in the world. So you really have to like convince them to help you with the super mutants, or to let you help them with super mutants.
Do they fight at the military base then? That's what it looked like? I saw screenshots of it. Like, do they go there and help you? Okay.
Yeah, I think you can get that out, but like you have to join them or essentially be allied with them.
Right, which involves going on a suicide mission to a giant radioactive crater.
Hey, I did that. I went in there, got the thing. That's why I was dying on the overworld, because I had to go buy a bunch of rataways. But luckily,
so like they're not even really like super anti super mutant in this game. You have to kind of like get them there.
Or the super mutants kind of doing their own thing. I guess the Brotherhood didn't care in this game. It felt like. Yeah,
they're very much like their only goal really is to get all the bits of technology in the world and keep them away from everybody. They want everybody else to be back in the Dark Ages.
Oh, and there is a nuke in this game that you can blow up too. I didn't do it, but there is in the cathedral where the master blows himself up. You can, if you have enough science, set the nuke instead and leave and then blow him up. So I thought that was kind of cool when I was reading about that. But
pretty fun ending.
Before we wrap up the game, kind of go in the next. I want to because we talked a little bit, but I want to talk a little bit about Fallout 76, like that whole not dig deep into it, but just a little bit about like the drama.
That was, as someone who had up to that point never played any of these games and could have cared less about any of it. That was really entertaining to watch.
Yeah, it was.
I really enjoyed that.
It was great. All the drama.
We briefly mentioned it before, but the Fallout fandom is so split. Basically, there's like 4 groups of Fallout 1 and 2 are the best, and everything else is shit. Fallout 3 is the best, and New Vegas is shit, and Fallout New Vegas is the best, and because Fallout 1 was good, and Fallout 3 is shit. And then there's the fourth group, which is I just like Fallout. But even the I just like Fallout group is like, yeah, Fallout 76 was a fucking disaster.
And then I'm in the group that's like,
Yeah, you're not in the fan.
You telling me this game didn't make you a fan for life? What? I can't believe that. TJ. No, I can't believe it.
It's disappointing because
allow me to repeat myself. Yeah.
Like I was following 76. I knew right away that like 76 was going to be a Fallout game that I wasn't going to get on release. It was like, this isn't for me. This is for a different audience. And I was kind of excited about it. I was like, it's going to be different. If it works out, it'll be like a better version of like Rust and all the... I always want like survival games to do well, because I've played so many shitty survival games. I've played so many shitty Steam Greenlight games. You guys, I've played so many betas.
Do that.
I played DayZ, which was in beta for like 8 years. Essentially. I played that game for 8. I put near 1,000 hours in that game before it hit alpha.
That's a lot.
Or before it hit beta, when it was still in alpha, I should say. Because it was a mod that turns into standalone. I've just played so many like really shitty games that I want to be good. And I was like, oh, Fallout 76. If this is good, this will be like that really shitty game that finally got good. And nope, it was just a disaster. It's a total misstep. And I was like, I like the idea of it. I really wanted the idea of it to... I like the idea of it. I really wanted the game to live up to it, of like this multiplayer type, like nuclear proliferation game. Like what I was hoping for was that everybody would have nukes, and it would be such a detriment to everybody that nobody would use them. Like I was hoping it would actually turn.
Which is how it works in real life.
Yeah, and I wanted it to be like real life. I wanted it to be. I can nuke this person. You can't trust Bethesda to make reasonable facsimiles of real life.
No.
Without stuff like falling through the ground.
Yeah, it was a mess all around.
Any last thoughts on the game before we move on? I got a couple of listener questions and then a trivia question too for Stuart.
You know, if
I already said my piece enough.
I'll let DJ go first because I know he's his last thought's gonna be I hate it.
I can see why people love this game. I will just say that. I can see 100% why people love this game, because it's designed in a way that's, yes, very confusing and frustrating to people who are not used to it, but there is a sort of genuineness and a very, like, there is something to be said for figuring stuff out on your own, and the sort of adrenaline rush and the sense of accomplishment that comes with that. And that's what this game is all about. It's like, we're giving you no information. You have to figure out everything on your own. It actually reminded me much less of RPGs and much more of point and click adventure games. Like that really old school LucasArts stuff. Like Day of the
Longest
Tentacle,
Journey, and Day of the Tentacle.
Yeah, Day of the Tentacle, which has like a million different things going on that you just can't parse. That like you have to be thinking in a very specific way in order to even get it. And you basically turn off this game and spend the rest of the week going over it in your head and like, what the fuck does this mean? How am I supposed to do this? And then you'll have that aha moment and you'll go back and you'll figure it out. Like, I think it's a time and place thing. I think back in the mid-late 90s when this game came out, people were much more used to playing games that way.
Yeah, I think games asked more of you.
Yes, and I think
especially
because people in our generation were younger and had more free time, we were much more willing to do that, and we were at that much younger, more impressionable age where that when that experience happened, it really stuck. And then we started formulating these nostalgic memories of that, and then that particular feeling, like that's the true nature of this series. Like that's what it really is.
You don't play Fallout to beat Fallout. You play Fallout 1 to conquer the game. Say, I get you. I understand you now.
So people who feel that way about Fallout, yeah, of course Fallout 3 isn't what you're looking for. Of course, all this Bethesda stuff isn't what you're looking for. And yeah, okay, I guess I understand you for being like upset about that. But for me, who just isn't into these kinds of games to begin with and is coming to this one 2 decades after the fact, yeah.
I mean, like, if they released a game like this today, it would not sell.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. Which I was kind of annoyed about when people say, like...
It makes me feel even sorrier for these people who, like, want it so badly, because it's like, you're not going to get it, guys.
You're never going to get it.
It's not going to happen to you. I'm sorry.
The only good ones, and, like, Bethesda ruined everything. It's like, if somebody came out with a game like this that made you hate yourself playing it, like, even more, like, because I mean, like, I play Resident Evil 2. And Resident Evil 2 makes me like, I'm on edge the entire time, but I'm having fun, like, playing it. I'm having fun, like, navigating my way through the game. Something like this where I'd have to stop playing the game and, like, turn it off and start over from scratch to get it. I would not go back to it.
Yeah, like, once you start getting places in this game, it does feel very rewarding, but getting there is not fun. No, getting there is arduous. It is a chore.
I think if they wanted to go back and do like a Fallout game in this style, they would have to add in something, like some kind of like small tutorial, perhaps.
Oh, at the very least. Like, I spent an hour just trying to figure out how the battle system worked.
Just like walk. Yeah. They just need to walk.
Like, I just spent my first hour dying to rats.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, yeah, you don't know how the combat works. The combat is so of its time.
Yeah, very much.
So out of sync to what
the only reason I was able to like get a handle on the combat is because I play actual tabletop RPGs, or I like have some experience with them. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is just a tabletop thing where it's like you have, okay, these action points. It's like the number of actions you have per round. Like, the only reason I was able to key into some of the stuff in this game is because I've played tabletop RPGs, which is a lot what this is based on.
Yeah.
Very heavily based on that. So I was
Fallout 1 is more like Settlers of Catan than it is like Fallout 3.
Any final thoughts about Fallout you want to say before we... And I got a few things I'll say real fast.
I still need convincing.
Yeah, we'll play better ones later.
Yeah.
I think Fallout 1 is worth playing for like major Fallout fans who want to see where the series came from.
Yeah.
And if you're really into this like difficult gameplay, if you want like a game that's really going to challenge you, and
I will say I understand what this game is, and I appreciate it for that, and I understand why people who love it. Yeah. But like, it's like the experience.
It's not a casual game.
Yeah, you have to invest in this game, and honestly, like, I did not want to keep playing it. I kept playing it because I have to play for the show, but
yep.
It was like the actual experience of playing it was like, I am frustrated. I can't figure out what I'm supposed to do. I just don't want to keep doing this. It's like, yeah, I've actually, we'll talk about this on a future episode. I've been playing other games from the list ahead of time.
It's just so you didn't have to play Fallout.
Because it was like, I want to play this one so much more.
Yeah, it's a hard game. And
in a couple months, we're gonna talk about this, and that episode, this one game in particular that I've been playing. I'm not gonna spoil it now, but when we get to that episode, that's gonna be a real fun one.
Well, we'll get to it knowing that Mike and me can say that we've beaten Fallout, and we'll have that badge of honor.
That's the only reason I finished it.
I don't care. You guys can have that badge.
We can have that.
I mean, as much as I ridicule this game throughout the show and cut it down, I mean, I understand like what it was going for. And in '98, it probably would have been fun, but for me, with there's no quality of life things that were improvement that we're used to. This game is over 20 years old at this point. It was missing things that I need now that I expect with no time, and that's why I didn't enjoy it. Like, if you like Fallout, I say try it. You might like it, but it's just such a different thing than what Fallout is now.
It's like, it's not. I wouldn't say it's a good. Well, I'm not gonna say it's a bad game. I like it. I was gonna say it wasn't a good game, but it's a good game. It's just such a specific game. it has this very specific like niche audience.
Mm.
But like the thing that I would say it's still an important game because a lot of people like know the Fallout series. They know it's a big series, and they might be I know people that say like, "Oh, I'm a huge like Fallout fan." Like, "Oh, have you played 1 and 2?" And they're like, "Oh, no." I would never say that you're not a Fallout fan if you haven't played them, but I think it's worth trying them just to see like, if anything, just to hate them and see how much better the latter games are, or just how much more like fun they are, rather than being this challenging thing. They're for you. They're for the gamer.
And before we do shelf or box, I got 3 listener questions for us now.
Let's go.
Overblood. First one from another Michael. He said, "I'm wondering how longtime fans of the series view the change from CRPG to FPS," which we kind of touched on our declaration of war earlier.
I like it.
I like the first-person shooter ones so much more.
I don't play either of those genres, so
I'm
not really a big first-person shooter. Like, I'm not a massive. I don't play first-person shooters specifically because they're first-person shooters. I will play a first-person shooter because I like something else about the game.
Fallout 3 is not a first-person shooter; it just has the camera, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's.
That game is
there's not even iron sights in the game. It's
a VAT system. It's an RPG. Next one I have from Daniel. Fallout was a really unique series that made a hard shift towards cookie-cutter design with 2004 Brotherhood of Steel, which I've never played, and later 2008's Fallout 3. What games, if any, do you think carry the Fallout torch today?
I mean, Fallout 3. I mean, I know who asked this question. I know I've argued with him several times about this. But, I mean, Fallout
I have
3,
also argued with this person many times over other subjects.
Fallout 3 totally is the same game as Fallout 1.
Oh yeah, which I did not know until until the show. Until we did
the same story beats. It's not the same gameplay. The only thing that changes is the gameplay, which I can't think of any games today that are going to carry that gameplay style.
Well, I mean, we're not talking about the elephant in the room here, which is the Outer Worlds. That whole thing happened, and that's 2 of the original guys who worked on this.
I guess XCOM, they did XCOM not too long ago, and that didn't do well. But like I
think it did fairly well, right?
It did okay. It's not like it's a difficult game. Like any game that is so based around percentage as opposed to like, I think what is kind of important about any game with a gun in it is if you click on something and you're aiming the gun at it, that thing should take damage. Whereas like in the early Fallouts, Morrowind was like this, XCOM is like this. You might say like, oh, I'm standing 3 feet away from this guy with a shotgun, and I've got a 99% chance to hit. Oh, I missed him.
Yep.
And it's just like, oh well, that's the end of that battle. He's got me now. But I think if you want to see like a total success to a total like successful sequel to the Fallouts, Fallout 3 is great. People say Fallout New Vegas picks it up a little bit better. I would disagree with that slightly. I wasn't a massive fan of the changes in Fallout New Vegas. I love Fallout New Vegas. I think its DLC are easily my favorite in the series. I love its story, and just the way it tells the story through the DLC is phenomenal. In case you don't know, in case the listeners don't know, there's 4 DLC packs in Fallout New Vegas, but they're all connected. They're all part of one giant story arc. That's like
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it carries like the rest of the game. Kind of. It's like you play the main game and then you play the DLC, and you realize like that the whole game is kind of riding off of the effects of the DLC story that have just like the wide-reaching influence of this other character that has this like rivalry with you that's you're just chasing throughout these DLCs. It's a really phenomenal storytelling.
I'll have to try to play it someday. It's always been on my list.
It's and like each DLC is just so like wildly different as well. Fallout 3 does the same thing with like Mothership Zeta, where you go to space and then you're like in a computer program to the past.
And I got the last. I'll do our last question now. I think you answered that one. Favorite thing about the new games and favorite thing about the older games. I'll go first. Favorite thing about the older games, They don't make them anymore.
Yeah.
That's my favorite thing.
Wow.
Ooh.
The newer game.
Someone's going to be real mad about that.
I know, especially because I posted this in a Fallout group too, so we'll see how that goes. That's why I was laughing my ass off. You're doing the whole declaration of war thing in the beginning. I'm like, oh, this could be very interesting.
The entire,
I only played Fallout 3, the new ones, but I just enjoyed the style. I enjoy the fact that you are in a wasteland. You're in the same type of like what this game captured. You're lost, you're confused, but at least you're given direction. You're given like, oh, hey, go to this place, go to Megaton, go here. And at least I felt like I was accomplishing something, where in this game I felt like I was just wandering around the wasteland, apparently getting more radiated with no real, I had no idea what I was doing, and just frustrated the whole time.
This game is the definition of clunky.
All right.
I like the voice acting.
The voice acting was
voice acting's real good.
I would say
I like the voice acting, and I like that's actually one thing that I feel the old games have to have over the new ones is the visual style.
Yeah.
Because the new ones just look like Bethesda games, which look pretty crappy, honestly.
I would disagree with that, but I'll talk about it.
No, but Bethesda, I feel like the faces and the faces in particular have so much less personality.
Well, I'll give you that, because models in Bethesda games are always the weakest aspect.
Yeah, they're just awful.
What's I think great about Bethesda games is the world, and I think that's the focus of them more than anything. Like, the focus of Skyrim is Skyrim. It's not the characters. It's
not the quest. It's not the main story. It's like
this
you
crazy,
can just run around, yell at people, hit stuff with the sword.
Run around the woods yelling at people is my new description of what Skyrim is.
I mean, yeah, that's what
so thank you for that.
And it's fun to do that. Like, and that's, I think, the direction they shifted Fallout in also is that, hey, there's just this big open wasteland to go explore, so just go walk around in it. Yeah,
the world in Western RPGs in particular, and Bethesda games especially, the world is the star. It's not the characters. It's not necessarily the story.
Whereas in this, like, you're literally a dot moving on a radar. Like, the exploration is not the point. In fact, exploring is a drag.
Yeah, it's really more about like finding out what's going on. Like, really.
Yeah, it's
another game
detective.
Like it's detective.
Like I said, it's more like a point and click adventure.
Detective Fallout.
And by the way, those are games that are not being made anymore either. So this style of game design is
sir. They still make Sherlock Holmes games all the time. Yeah, they do.
It's not the same,
poorly.
Man. It's not the same.
I own a few of them.
Yeah, do you have the one with teleporting Watson?
I've never played them. I just buy them for like $10. I don't actually play them. I just own them. All right, and then are we a segment we did last time, which Stuart wasn't around
hold on. Let me say real quick, because I didn't answer the question, actually. So my favorite part of the older games... Actually, my favorite part of the... I think the older games and the newer games do really well is, the world building is fantastic. I love the whole Metropolis influence on the world. Like, in Fallout 3, you can find, this Chrysler inspired car park, where it's I think it's the Corvega buildings, where it's got these giant Metropolis busts on the side of the building, these giant steel faces that are just looming over everything. They're very cinematic and very they're very imposing. I think Fallout 1 does that really well too, when you get to like Necropolis and everything's just shitty and on fire, and buildings have fallen over and crumbled in, and you get these loading screens which aren't the highest resolution, but I think it's a great design. I think the first games, the voice work's really good. That sense of reward is really important to them. I think the latter games are they're just more streamlined. They're just more fun to me. Like Fallout 4, I love Fallout 4 because I will spend hours building my settlement to the detriment of my game. I'll stop playing the game and I'll just build settlements because I just like doing that so much. It's like Sims and Fallout. I built Sanctuary Hills up, and I put in a bunch of different stores, and I put neon lights on all the stores, and all the store names were puns on Sanctuary Hills. There was a doctor's office called Sanctuary Pills.
Nice.
The restaurant was Sanctuary Grills. I love that.
I can tell. You actually love Fallout much more than both me and DJ do. That's for sure.
I just love the world. It's great.
And then one thing we did last time on last week's episode, my wife again has some trivia for you, Stuart, this time.
Okay.
Oh no.
See
All
if I can
right,
get it.
here
I'm
we
worried that
go.
I'm gonna like not get it now that the pressure's on.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Tiffany.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Why were the vault uniforms blue and yellow?
Ooh, I know this one.
I actually don't know. I want to say it was blue for like. I know conceptually why they're blue and yellow. I don't know what the reason is in the game.
Okay.
What do you think it is?
I'll field this one.
Okay.
I know the answer to this because I watched the GI interview with the two guys making the Outer Worlds, and they asked this question, so I know what the answer is. It's because what's the artist's name? Hold on. Yeah, I feel bad for forgetting these guys' names. They're the two nicest guys in the world. Like,
None of us are gonna get it now.
Oh, I
like-
hear computer typing.
hold on. No, I'm not looking at the answer. I'm just looking up the guy's name, so I don't like say the guy, because I want to say his name because he deserves to have his name said.
I know. I can talk about
Tim Kaine. No, wait, no. Leonard Boyarsky.
Tim Kaine? No.
So
that
Leonard
was a programmer.
Leonard
Just kidding.
Boyarsky.
Tim
Leonard
Kaine is the
Boyarsky
senator
was
of
the
Virginia Beach.
Leonard
Or Virginia.
Boyarsky was the artist. Tim Kaine was the programmer. Tim
Okay,
Kaine
yeah.
gave Leonard a palette, and Leonard had used all but two colors, which were
Yep,
blue
that's
and
it.
yellow.
Yep,
So-
that's it.
So Tim was like, "All right, you have to use blue and yellow." So he just made the uniform blue and yellow.
Oh, man,
Good
I didn't know that.
job.
Yay!
Yay.
Huh, now I look like a fool. DJ, you hated the game, got it.
I watched an interview, man.
All right, should we move on to shelf or box? And we should
Yes,
probably explain
let's-
shelf or box.
This has gone on long enough.
Yeah.
I should redeem myself by saying that Jet in the game is made from cow farts. That's a niche fact I could throw in there to
Right.
slightly redeem
just-
myself.
For shelf
No,
or
no,
box.
the game's over, Stu.
No, this is just me on my own time.
Okay, Stu, the game's
Okay.
over. It's fine. It's okay.
Shelf or
It's-
box. You go.
Yeah. All right. Let's actually keep doing the show.
Okay.
Let's
shelf
just
or
end the
box-
show right here and don't say anything else. This is just the end of the show.
You know what? I'm tempted.
Hey, now.
a hard cut.
All
I've been
right.
saving my shelf or box for a week to make this comment.
Okay.
So I-
And outro.
All right.
Oh, man.
The shelf or box thing is where we each talk about the game, whether or not we would put it on the shelf or we would throw it in the box and store it away. DJ, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Box, like, it's a curiosity for me. Like, I understand why people love it. I also understand why people hate it. Me not having a whole lot of experience with this genre and basically being thrown into the deep end, I'm like, well, I understand why people like it, but I don't like it. Like, playing it wasn't fun. And it's not my genre, man. It's just, that's what it comes down to, is it's not my genre. And I just don't get a whole lot out of it.
I want to put that on as the quote on the box. Fallout 1. Playing it wasn't fun.
All right, I'll give Stefan's real quick because I had texted him earlier to ask him what he wanted to say, and he said definitely shelf. Fallout is a classic game that started this from humble beginnings and into the franchise it became.
Okay.
Stuart, what do you? I'm pretty sure I know the answer already, but
Well, yeah, I'm gonna say shelf. Not so much that I love this particular game. I like 2 a lot. I like Fallout a lot, and I think this game is important because it did start it all, and it has some really. It kind of started that really interesting. I like retrofuturism just in general as an art form, and this game has it done really well, and it's challenging. So it's like when this game finally clicked for me, that was a really big moment for me. When I finally understood what I was doing, I was all in to Fallout. So yeah, I'd say it's not my favorite Fallout. It's certainly not the best Fallout, but yeah, it's important. It deserves to be recognized. I'm putting it on my shelf.
all right. And for me, I'm going to throw a curveball. I'm putting in the recycle bin right now as we speak. Just put the shortcut right in there. Never want to see this game again. If I own it, it'd go in the box. But since all I have is a digital copy, done, gone in the recycle bin. Never want to see this again.
I'll buy you a physical copy of this game so you can snap the disc.
All right, and then we should start wrapping up. I'll do Just do quick promotion if you guys get a chance. Please listen to Trash Talk Podcast. He's now on Podbean. Should be on other stuff eventually. You can find us. We have a Facebook page now, which a lot of people have been liking. So please come on over there. We are on Twitter, which still got a few people that have became whatever we're called it, friends or Twitter. I don't know anything about Twitter.
Followers.
Yeah, so much I use
like,
Twitter.
Like stalkers do.
You can find us in I watch the entire Overblood Super Replay. I've been asking questions a lot in there to get people for listener questions. So if you're listening to the show and you're not an Overbloody, feel free to join our group, and then I will be doing more and more posts on there until someone gets mad at me for questions, which hasn't happened yet.
Pretty good audience feedback in there, actually. So
we're starting to.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to say where they can find them, or just go with Overblood?
Yeah. For now, it's an Overblood.
Yeah.
I still haven't. I need to go back and fix up my Twitter still.
Okay.
Yeah. My social media is just a mess. I don't do that. I don't play that.
My secondary goal for the week is fixing my Twitter.
Okay.
Changing my picture to a picture of me instead of, I think it's a picture of Zoidberg right now.
All right. DJ, if you want to give a shout out to our wonderful guy.
Yes. Our wonderful theme song was provided by Mike Stoney, a.k.a. Bulby. It's the Cool Kids Squad off of his EP, Bite the Bullet. You can find Mike on his SoundCloud. You can also find him on his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Bulby, Bulby. He's got tons of stuff on there, including original works and 8 and 16-bit covers of video game tunes. He's a super cool guy. Big thanks to him for letting us use his stuff, and go check him out.
I've been listening to him in the background as I've had like a lot of digital work to do this week, and so I've it's like, oh man, what can I listen to? And it came to mind, I should listen to Bulby. This is my 8-bit Dragon Ball.
All right, just want to thank everyone for taking the time out to
Wait,
listen to our
hold
show.
Hold on, Mike. I can't believe I have to keep reminding you. What are we playing next week?
Oh yeah,
I should do that.
Fallout 2.
We are playing Metal Gear Solid for the Game Boy Color.
Hey, curveball.
It's a game that I played I must play maybe 5-6 years ago, and I played again a few years ago. I absolutely really like this game. That's why I picked it for the show, since I know like not a lot of people have experienced it.
I like how we're getting off of a challenging game and going into a Metal Gear.
It's still challenging, but it's very different. But it's a good game. It's not confusing like some games.
No, it's gonna take us 3 hours to talk about it. We're gonna have to like limit our Metal Gear talk to.
Oh yeah, I'll be much more of a host for this one. I was off my own little wasteland at different points. I was like Stuart.
I was totally lost this episode. Yeah,
I was too.
We don't have Stefan here, so I basically had to ramble.
That's why
to myself.
In the show notes, I even said wherever Stuart takes us. I wasn't kidding. I knew that's what was going to happen.
That's why I realized
Stuart episode.
I realized I had control, and so I just turned it into a platform for me to yell at people who are elitist about Fallout.
Hey, it's all right.
Just
not
play
like
games and enjoy them.
In a Fallout group or anything after I get the show live. But I want to thank everybody for listening, and everybody have a great day, or good night, or whatever you listen to us.
All right, bye everybody.
Bye.
Whatever day.
Have a wonderful week, you lovely people. Practice self-care. Take a bath.
War never changed.
Practice self-care. Don't play Fallout.
All right.
All right.
Goodbye, everybody.
I love you all.
Bye.
Bye.